Welcome. Our next presenter is Lagois. He will be talking to us about do-it-yourself, the risks and rewards. He owns Lagois Design, Build, Renovate. Herb will discuss the risks and the rewards of tackling your renovation projects yourself. Get some tips on how to make informed decisions and decide if do-it-yourself is for you.
Dora, thank you so much for the introduction. So thank you for coming out today, taking the time. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show. Certainly the weather's conducive to coming out, so thank you. So first off, I'm Herb Lagois. I'm president of Lagois Design, Build, Renovate. And I started the company in 1984. And originally it was called Lagois Drafting and Construction. And then a couple of years ago, we kind of enhanced our brand to truly represent what we do. So now we're known as Lagois Design, Build, Renovate, Ottawa's renovation specialists. But we are indeed the same company. So also, if anybody has any questions, just raise your hand, and then I can address some questions as well. So feel free to ask. Just a quick background. My educational background is in architecture. Yet I grew up working with my hands, and that's for me a true love. And so when I started our business, I actually framed houses for a couple of years, and then I slowly developed the design side of our business. Now that's my primary role at Lagois. I'm primarily part of the design team. So today I'd like to share my own experiences as a do-it-yourselfer. And I'd like to point out some possible potential risks, or certainly some lessons I learned through the process. And I think some of the lessons that I've learned certainly could also be transferred to if you're thinking of hiring a contractor or a remodeler. Certainly some of the lessons apply there as well. And if you are thinking of doing it yourself, certainly there's some things to take in consideration, so hopefully you'll get some value out of this presentation. So I actually Googled do-it-yourself, and there is a definition. So it's the term do-it-yourself has been around since 1912, and it's more related to the home improvement and maintenance sector. So it definitely relates to home construction renovations. And also, what I find interesting, it's the method of building, modifying, or repairing without the aid of experts or professionals, which for me, I find really interesting, because I'd like to think of myself as an expert and certainly a professional as well. So when I built my own addition, I was actually in the other end of it, so I was the expert doing the actual work. So just to give you a little bit of background with the scenario for our addition, we built our home many years ago, probably many being around 30 years ago now. When we built the home, though, I did have the help of experts and professionals at the time. And the primary goal for our home back then was to get a roof over our heads. The home had to be affordable. And we raised our family. It was great. The home functioned really well for our family, yet there were some things that I really didn't like about our home. So access to the backyard, so it was a high ranch, so our deck was like about 4 or 5 feet off the ground, so all our outdoor living was happening on the deck, so we didn't take advantage of our backyard. Also, we had what I like to call pukey windows at the back of the house, so I'm a firm believer in indoor-outdoor integration, yet we didn't have that for us. Also, one of the problems we had was just simple access from the garage to the kitchen. We did have access from like the garage, but to the basement, then back up to the kitchen. And for me, garage space, so tools. So I like working with my hands. So one of my passions is our motorcycles. So I just really wanted that space where I can fool around with bikes and that kind of thing. So Also, we at Lagois, my primary role is to really help people love where they live. And it was no different with us. We love our location where we were. We had have a great relationship with our neighbors. Also, the commute for me to work is very close. I'm only 5 minutes away. And in our case as well, our exposure of the home, like the solar orientation of the home, is absolutely perfect for what we wanted to do. So we said, okay, let's renovate. Let's stay here. So luckily, I knew of a great designer, which is me. But so yeah, when I look at the experience in hindsight, I actually have couples in front of me, and one of my jobs is to kind of mediate or take all the different ideas and components and convey it back in a design that meets everybody's needs. Yet it was a different scenario when I was doing it for myself and my wife. And yes, we're great at communicating, yet we had a few heated communications as well throughout the process. But it was all cool. We got through the process, and we did apply for the building permit. So the message here is, if you're doing substantial work or literally almost any kind of work, you also need a building permit for what you're thinking of doing. So one of the lessons is cost. And certainly I'm in the business, and every day I coach our clients about how important it is selecting everything up front before we actually start construction. And then we know exactly what everything costs. Before we start, we know what we're getting into. We can order things on time. So in our case, like, I did go through a spreadsheet. I had a pretty good idea of the cost, but at the end of the day, it did cost more than what I hoped for. And also, and I've seen this, what if you actually run out of money? So if you go into a project not knowing how much things cost, what if you do run out of money? And once you start construction, you're literally committed to finishing. Also on our end, as part of our design, we thought a pool would be really nice, and our home is our cottage as well. So that's where we do all our living. So okay, a pool is neat. Let's put a pool in. And yes, we did consider that through the design process, but what I did realize that if I actually thought of a pool 30 years ago when we built our house, I could have saved myself 30 grand because the pool went right where the septic system was. So guess what? We want a pool. Let's move the septic. So the positive out of that, though, is at least I can advise our clients to think holistically, and a lot of what we do through design as well is taking into account short-term and long-term goals. So if you are thinking of doing something yourself, or whether it's working with a designer or a builder, also certainly think about short-term but long-term as well. Things like flex housing or aging. Do you want to age in place at your home? Those kinds of considerations. Schedule. We eat and breathe schedules at Lagois. That's what we're all about. And if one of our managers didn't follow our process, we would have a very, very serious discussion with that manager. But did I follow a schedule? No. Our average project, or the average Lagois project, is probably 6 months, 4 to 6 months, depending on the complexity. So I thought, okay, cool, 6 months. Yeah, sounds reasonable. It took me 3 years to finish our project. So again, for me though, the enjoyment was working hands-on. So I did all the framing, I did the insulation, the drywall, the trim, the millwork, that kind of stuff. But it took time, so evenings and weekends were being eaten up. I remember one particular weekend, we had friends. We were supposed to meet in Rochester, New York, and they were flying in from Tennessee. so cool, but for whatever reason, I thought the priority was our addition. And so I stayed behind, my wife went, and I actually regret not going to see our friends, and I haven't seen them since they've been in Rochester, and that was about 7, 8, whatever years ago. So, and especially now that, you know, the project took 3 years, what difference would a weekend have made in the grand scheme of things? So you really need to think about your work schedules, your time, and even if you're hiring a builder or contractor, just really ask questions about the method and how they do things and how much time you're going to be involved with the process with respect to how they do things. The other thing I learned is I'm not as young as I used to be. So when I framed years ago in the early 80s, that was no problem. And then also certainly juggling family and kids, and there's baseball, there's hockey, there's whatever. So you're juggling all this and trying to get this done as well. So again, just be aware of time. Certainly work. Again, I help people love where they live. That's what I do. Then that's truly probably what I should have been doing. And again, kids, family, so if you have aging parents or whatever the case is, so that you have all these interferences or priorities in life as well. Supervision. That's what we do. We supervise. We're exceptionally good at it at Lagois. But I was working. I did not supervise our trades the way we should have. So there was, and of course, this was Herb's addition. Let's experiment with a few new trades, right? So we have a few new trades and then no supervision. So our foundation guy, I swear we have the ugliest foundation in all of Ottawa. It was just the crappiest finishing job. Now I did inspect the structure, so I know it's structurally sound, but just the finished product just sucks. And the other example is our pipe setter, and we needed to upsize our gas pipe coming into the house. So, okay, can you do it? Here's how I want it done. Yeah, no problem. I come back and the pipe is run up outside of the garage, this big 2.5-inch pipe up and into the top of the garage. So it's, again, I just wasn't there to supervise it. Of course they had to redo it, but now I have a really nice cool little cap where the hole was. And also our most outstanding trade though was our tile guy. And we were ready for tile, and I was thinking that morning that, you know, my instinct told me I should put up some plastic barrier between where the addition was and the house. So I thought, okay. So I put up the plastic, then great, tile guy gets in there. I come back, it was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I walk in, there was just this haze of dust and smoke and crap in the house. And it was just amazing. And then, because I wanted a little snake type pattern in the tile, and it just, the workmanship was crap. And then not only that, but then my wife comes in and goes, she's yelling at me, "I thought you're the expert, you know what you're doing." Yeah. So it's, again, to me, you have to be able to be there to know what's going on. And whether that's doing it yourself, or even if you're hiring a builder, see what their methods are for actually supervising the work and making sure it's done properly. Paperwork. We have piles of it at Lagois. We're very, very anal about getting things like clearance certificates from trades. They have to sign our Lagois safety policies. They have to have proof of insurance. All that kind of stuff. Did I do that for my house? No. Luckily, nothing happened, but what if something happened? There was, in one particular case, there was a homeowner in Richmond Hill that was fined $20,000 for a worker that actually got killed on his site. Setting aside the $20,000 fine, I couldn't even imagine having to deal with a death at one of our job sites or at my own house, for example. So just be aware as a do-it-yourselfer, you could become the constructor under the eyes of the law. It's especially applicable to new homes, so if you're building your new home and supervising, like hiring all your own trades, then by definition, for sure, there's a few caveats with renovations, but beware, there is a risk. Insurance. I did know enough to insure for the value we were investing into the house for the hoped amount. But so if we're starting the addition, or we're just doing a little bit of demo work, or we're putting a foundation in, really there's not a lot of cash outlay at that point. But what if we're nearing completion? We're a week away. You just spent $300,000 on this really nice project. Boom, you get struck by lightning and your house burns down. What if you were not insured for the value you're investing into your house? And that goes, whether it's do-it-yourself, whether you're hiring somebody like a contractor or a remodeler or a design build firm, it's very important that you insure for the value you're investing. And also now that there's more restrictions with homeowner insurance with respect to renovations. So definitely talk to your broker if you are thinking of renovating. So we go through our remodel or the addition. Everything's cool, it worked out nice. And then we thought, okay, let's do a kitchen reno. So anybody thinking of renovating or doing a kitchen? You guys? Oh yeah, a lot of kitchens here. Anybody thinking of doing it yourself? Yeah, a couple of guys. So my advice, if you're doing it yourself, besides hiring a professional, but if you're doing it yourself, just really look at the planning aspect of it. Get all your ducks in a row before you actually start the work. Because the kitchen is literally the hub of our lives, and once that kitchen is out, then what do you do? And I've actually last year I met a potential client, and they started their kitchen remodel about 7 years ago, and all they still have is just a piece of plywood in the middle of their floor, basically. So it can be quite taxing. So plan it through properly as well. So I can say I'm happily married still at the end of this project. So in that sense, it was definitely successful. So some things to consider, especially thinking about things up front. Whatever you're thinking, don't even double it. Times it by 4. So if you're thinking your kitchen remodel is going to cost 10 grand, go for 40. Yeah, that exactly. Times it by 4. But just the message there is just be realistic as well. And again, it's all about doing your homework. So it's one thing to replace kitchen cabinets, and that's easy to shop for. But what about all the incidental work? So the plumbing, if there's heating involved, what about electrical? So the lighting, the flooring. What about venting? What about gas piping? So there's a lot of other incidental things that are involved with a kitchen remodel. And certainly consider scope of project as well. I've flipped out kitchen sinks for myself. Even that got into a little bit of swearing because I'm not a professional when it comes to soldering. So even capping a plumbing pipe can be a challenge at times. So think about the scope. Think about how much you want to tackle by yourself, and just be aware as well. Also, think legalities. It's actually, as homeowners, we're legally required to provide a designated substance survey. and legally you're actually supposed to provide that to your builder. But how do we as homeowners possibly know that? So for us as builders and designers, we obviously have to educate our homeowners or clients. So there's a legal aspect, you actually legally need it, but even setting the legalities aside, do you want to be exposed to asbestos or hazardous materials? Do you want your kids to be exposed to that as well? That's a whole topic I can talk on, but it's dependent on the age of the house somewhat, but not always either, so it just depends on the scenario. So be aware of that as well. Again, be aware you could become the constructor underneath the eyes of the law. Insurance, definitely talk to your insurance broker if you're renovating, and then also make sure you're investing or insure for the value you're investing into your house. So if you guys are thinking 80, 100 grand, then make sure you're insured for that value as well. Time, so do you literally have time to do this type of work? And again, it could be physically doing the work. So for myself, the enjoyment was doing it. My incentive was the enjoyment. My incentive was not saving money to do the work. Yet, if you're undertaking this project to save some money, then do you have the time to inspect? Even subtleties like putting in or like using a range hood, for example. Did you think about that beforehand? So if you come in with this really nice box in your range hood and then you realize, oh crap, where does it vent to? It's going to be a lot more expensive to do it after the fact than before. And then even the little detailing of where the vent goes through, so making sure the air barrier is sealed properly, like how do you know you're doing that and it's being done? Impact on family. I actually have a friend who went through an interesting renovation and got a nice little divorce out of it. So whether they had problems or not, but just again, don't make this taxing. You need to have fun with the processes as well. So again, do you have experience? How do you know that this is actually done right? So I've seen some really awesome, incredible, good do-it-yourself projects. I've seen some really horrible do-it-yourself projects as well. I've been in condemned houses by the city of Ottawa, and I was frightened being in there because I have no idea how they were even standing up. So if you're getting into this, just make sure you're not taking out walls that's going to rip your house down or whatever. But even talking about big structural entities, but what about even the tile? How do you know your tile's not going to pop up off the floor in a couple of years? Or like our gas guy that put the hole through our siding. It's one thing to drill a hole, caulk the pipe, but that's not the proper detail for rain screening. How do you know your windows are installed properly? That there's very specialized type detailing, and that these guys over there at Clear Cut can certainly tell you about installation of windows and probably issues they found with installation of windows. Aptitude. So do you know which end of the hammer to hold up? Why do it if it's going to be a struggle? And again, if you're good at doing something, why not do what you're good at as well? So certainly don't get pressured into doing the reno yourself as well. So in hindsight, looking at it from my head instead of my hand perspective, I should have hired Lagois, again, specializing in helping people love where they live. That's my job. That's what I should have been doing and should have been busy with, actually was busy with, and trying to do the renovation at the same time. And so supervising the work, if we did hire, whether it's Lagois or a contractor, provided it's the right kind of contractor, the the work would have been supervised properly. It would have been just one entity I would have had to deal with, as opposed to dealing with every single trade and worrying about the oversight. So think about that from a time perspective. You guys are hiring your own trades as well. So even getting that phone call at work when you're in a meeting, oh, the tile guy needs information now. So that does add pressure. And also with us, there's a very specific process that we follow, and it's a proven process, and it wouldn't have taken me 3 years to finish the project. And also, again, just reiterating somewhat just the extra stress. So for me, it was working evenings and weekends. Also, yeah, free time, again, the evenings and weekends. And again, if you're trying to balance family and everything in the mix, and then you're trying to get that project done, or even using a kitchen sink, for example, if you just change out your sink, that could become a 2-day issue if you don't have the right parts and you got to run back to wherever, or you're trying to cap that little pipe and the darn thing won't solder or whatever. So even there, it could be a time suck. So just be aware of what you're getting into. Also, again, my incentive was not to save money for the addition. I just did it for the fun of it. But financially, if I actually calculate all the hours I put in, and then all the non-build hours or the build hours I could have had, then I certainly lost financially there as well. So this was our little high ranch that we built. So all we had access was like a patio door, and our deck was about 4 or 5 feet off the ground. Actually, our supervisor there, our dog, is on the left corner. But so that was the issue with our house, really. It was just we were very isolated, had a very nice exposure in the backyard. So that's the addition after, with the pool right where the septic was. That's that curved tile design that, and even cleaning the dust off the walls was a freaking nightmare. So just, again, be aware of what you're getting into. And then just kind of give you a shot of the backyard. But so for me, it was the indoor-outdoor integration. The exposure was absolutely perfect for solar gain. So that was basically the project. So I'll open up the floor to questions. And certainly feel free to email me, or you can certainly visit our website. We have blogs on our website as well. There's some blogs on safety as also, so feel free to have a look. You could feel free to visit our booth, and we also have a newsletter. You're welcome to sign up for that if you wish. So, any questions?
Some of the projects that we've done around home, I've done a lot of the grunt work. We've hired the experts. For instance, for electrical, I've run a lot of wire, but I hired my electrician to do the connections, right? He's got he was able to inspect and get the certification, right? The higher certification gets inspected and all that. So I'm thinking for the kitchen that we could take out the old cabinets. I could put the flooring in and do some of the roughing and then hand it over. And I think that's maybe an efficient way. We've done some tiling. We've done a number of other projects around the home. We did a 2-piece bathroom, which is not huge, but we put the tile, we put the electrical in on the floor, we put the tile to wainscoting height, right? So we did that all ourselves, other than, again, having an electrician to do connection, heating the floor, right? And you have to run the septic system, right? So there's a little bit of mixture, right? So what do you think of that?
What do I think of that is, I think it's definitely individual. Do you enjoy doing what you're doing? Do you enjoy all that work? And so there's half the battle right there. Because if you're swearing every day going, crap, I really don't want to do it, then did it the question is, did it save me anything? Nah, not really.
I think it did. I think it did. I wouldn't have been able to afford to do. We put in a pool and we've got 3 or 4 duplex plugs. I've got lighting all around the pool. Could not afford to hire my electrician
Yeah.
to run that.
You definitely have to have the aptitude to do it, and the enjoyment as well. Electricity being a great example, you actually had an electrician come in and do all the connections, have the oversight. That's crucial because now you're getting into insurance discussions as well. So that was definitely a wise move. So, well, question up here, Dora.
Given that you're a designer as well, and given that energy costs are going up, and you've learned a lot on experience, if you're to build a house right now or do renovations, what would you be thinking about in terms of utilities and making the house efficient?
So energy efficiency, what should we be thinking through design? What kind of project are you guys thinking of?
Well, in my case, I'm building a house.
Oh, okay. So building a house, definitely there's a great opportunity to think about energy and energy performance because it's very holistic. So key now is your house is a system. It's not individual components anymore in the house, so everything reacts with something else. So definitely think about things like insulation or wrapping your house like a blanket kind of concept. Yet there's caveats with that, but so think about energy. Certainly you can think about your green aspect of where things are coming from. So also certainly the building codes have changed as well. So the codes are now more energy based. Eventually the codes are heading to net zero. So you may think about things like alternate energy, so things like geothermal, things like radiant floor heat, alternate building techniques like SIP or ICF, like actually these guys, Integra Spec. Those are also great building techniques, but it's all we still have a certain investment we have to deal with, right? So and then making it all work, but then also if you can measure your payback as well. So if your designer can do a cost analysis or energy consumption as well, that should be part and parcel of the design of your home as well. So yeah, definitely there's opportunities. There's a whole gamut and discussion, even window technologies. There's such a range where actually now we can get quintuple glazed windows even, but then again, is it viable, is it affordable? So it becomes a holistic design. So hopefully I answered the question a little bit. So. All right, well, thank you so much for coming out, and appreciate it. Enjoy the show and enjoy what the show has to offer as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Herb.
Okay.